What's up, fellas? My name is Tucker, and NBA free agency day 2 has gotten very, very weird. We're going to talk about all the new deals. We're going to talk about a couple of guys that still are unsigned in this video. If you like it, leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials right there. Let's go and get started. Okay, so the first player that I want to start with here, and I'm hoping that he doesn't get signed either while I'm recording this or while I'm trying to edit it and get it out, is DeMar DeRozan. He is kind of the next domino, I feel like, within this free agency class, because we've seen guys like Kyle Lowry, Evan Fournier, a lot of different guards end up on different teams. And now it's just like there's only a couple of real teams left that have significant cap space, and it's basically San Antonio and then some other, smaller amounts of cap space out there. And so I really don't know what to make of the DeRozan situation. Apparently he's meeting with the Clippers today. I'm sure some of the Lakers talks are still ongoing. Potentially there's some New York buzz, Chicago. I don't know how in the world Chicago is going to try and make it work after already signing Caruso and doing the sign and trade for Lonzo Ball. But DeMar DeRozan feels like not only the best guy in the market, but the guy that nobody has any idea where he's going to end up. And it's interesting because I kind of thought he was going to end up with the Lakers. Now apparently he's meeting with the Clippers. And unless he's taking like a $6 million mid-level exception to go to those teams, which at this point he might end up having to do, San Antonio would have to help out those LA teams by facilitating a sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan, because that's the only way that they can acquire him. So unless they really want to do those LA teams a favor, or DeMar DeRozan wants to take the $6 million, maybe it is Chicago, maybe it is New York, Dallas, I don't know. Or maybe we're looking at a scenario where DeMar DeRozan is re-signing in San Antonio. I have no idea. If you want to tell me DeMar DeRozan goes back to San Antonio on a deal worth $15 million a year, player option for next year, cool. If you want to tell me that he ends up in LA, either LA team for $6 million, cool. If you want to tell me he ends up in Dallas for 10, I would believe that too. It is all over the place right now. And it's related to our next player here, and it's Dennis Schroder, two of the bigger names that are still left unsigned, and importantly, could be potential bargains out there on the free agency market. I think Schroder seems to be more concerned with getting his money than DeRozan does. I think DeRozan is taking his time, and he's not really in a hurry to go and sign somewhere, because he knows that even if he does end up on like a $6 million deal in LA, he's gotten, plenty of his money. He's not overly concerned. Schroder is a guy that has turned down a big contract extension during the season from LA, and is now, it just seems very unlikely that he is going to end up with a significant $15 to $20 million a year deal, just because that team doesn't really exist right now that has that kind of cap space, again, unless it's San Antonio. And this was always going to kind of be a possibility and an option here, is once we got past the first 12 to 16 hours of free agency, a lot of the cap space was going to be gone. And there was, especially at the guard spots, DeRozan, Schroder, Paul, Conley, there's a ton of guards. And once all that money got used up, there was just a handful too many guards to earn $15 to $20 million a year. And now it seems like Schroder and DeRozan are the two guys left waiting, looking around, wondering where their big contract offer is going to come from. Maybe a sign and trade is facilitated, and Dennis Schroder does end up somewhere that he wants to be on a significant deal. But right now, it seems like that market has cooled off in a pretty significant way. Two other guys that I meant to mention in the Heat section of the video yesterday as well are Kendrick Nunn and Victor Oladipo. Nunn being restricted, Oladipo being unrestricted. And there's some reports about how Oladipo might go unsigned. Hold on, my phone's going. Steph Curry signed his big extension. We all knew that. There was some buzz that maybe Oladipo wouldn't even sign a new contract because teams don't know if he's going to be ready to play at all because of the injury stuff. And it seemed like, Miami is kind of on the same page with that as well, and just moving forward with this idea of not having Oladipo be part of the plan. Obviously, they didn't really trade anything in exchange for him, but it's just been a very, very odd year and a half, 2 years for Victor Oladipo, to the point where he might just go unsigned. And then Kendrick Nunn is a restricted free agent for them, that with all the other money they've spent, Lowry, the big Butler extension, Duncan Robinson, is Kendrick Nunn part of the long-term plan there in Miami, or is he part of the sign and trade in exchange for Lowry? We still don't really know the details on that. Kendrick Nunn, another guy to keep an eye on, is potentially going back on a qualifying offer to Miami. And there it is. Kendrick Nunn is an unrestricted free agent as of right now. And then we got to talk about Andre Drummond. He signs a one-year deal today with the Philadelphia 76ers. A really, really bizarre situation. You can say what you want about Andre Drummond, but I definitely think the expectation was that he was going to get something more than a 1 year. The number hasn't even been reported yet, but it's probably either the minimum or like $5 million or something. It's not a big 1 year deal at all for Andre Drummond. And it has been a very interesting last 7 or 8 months for him to go from a buyout player in Detroit, goes to LA, someone that seems like he's going to have a significant impact, one of the better rebounders in the league. And it kind of seemed like they promised him the starting job when they brought him in on a buyout. And then once they started to go away from that towards the end of their playoff run, he kind of soured on the idea of returning them. And now he ends up in Philly as the very clear backup behind Joel Embiid. How bad had the offers had to be for Andre Drummond in free agency to not only take a 1 year deal on what's not going to be a ton of money, but to be a guaranteed backup behind Joel Embiid? I would love to know what the actual real tangible offers were on the table for Andre Drummond. I don't blame these teams for not going out of their way to go and get him. You don't need to spend a ton of money on fives, especially backup fives. And if all they're going to be doing is rolling to the rim and rebounding and not really knowing what to do defensively, you can get a ton of guys like that. Checking my phone one more time. Okay, we're good. You can get a ton of guys like that pretty easily in free agency. So the market being so low for Drummond isn't necessarily surprising, but the team he ended up on and just a 1 year deal, all that stuff is crazy to think about just going back 6, 7, 8 months. I mean, this is a former All-Star who's not old, by the way, and we're seeing guys like Rashawn Holmes get bigger deals than Andre Drummond free agency. Crazy, crazy time to be him. And then 2 more points here. I want to talk about the Pelicans, and then I want to talk about Patty Mills to Brooklyn. 2 more points here left in the video. So the Pelicans, they're kind of left standing around here as well. And we talked about the Lonzo thing yesterday where they really didn't get anything back in the sign and trade. I didn't understand that other than not using up their cap space to get Lonzo, but then they end up using the cap space on Devontae Graham in a sign and trade. They're sending a future first to Charlotte because, it just makes it easier for them to bring him in a sign and trade rather than using it on cap space. And when you think about the timeline of this for New Orleans, the trade that they made to move back in the draft, they kind of, hold on. Okay, we're good. They kind of had to make that move before the draft. So typically when you dump salary like that, you have an idea of a guy that you're going to bring in, the Nets trading away, future draft capital and getting rid of Allen Crabbe in order to be able to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You normally, when you do that, you are pretty confident you're going to bring someone in. So that's what I thought was happening with New Orleans. I thought that they felt pretty confident they were going to get Kyle Lowry or somebody, and maybe they still will. Obviously not Kyle Lowry, but maybe they still will get somebody. But what ended up happening for them is, because of the draft picks involved, because it was 10 and 17, because they couldn't draft a player that they would know that Memphis would want and then trade him, they kind of had to make that move before the draft, take that gamble, open up that space, and hope it worked out for them in free agency, and it quite simply hasn't. Devontae Graham is a fine player, and I'm sure he's going to help them, but when you make the trade that they did to give up draft capital, to open up cap space, to not improve your roster, it's a borderline disaster for them. And not only that, but then losing out on Lonzo and losing a significant piece of the Anthony Davis trade as well. Things are looking very, very rough and could get very, very dramatic there in New Orleans if they're not careful. Obviously, one of the biggest losers of free agency so far once we finally do get to that video later in the week. Last up, I feel the need to put this in there just because I'm so excited about it. Patty Mills signing with Brooklyn. He was someone that I really wanted them to add to the roster. I'm sure every contender in the league wanted to add Patty Mills now that he left San Antonio. It's 2 years, 12 with a player option for next season. It's a huge expense for Brooklyn because of how far into the luxury tax they already are. It's not just a $6 million a year thing for them. I mean, it's way more than that because of where they're at payroll-wise. But Brooklyn has got to be one of the bigger winners of the offseason or of free agency to this point as well. To be able to bring in Patty Mills, another shooter, another spacer, another guy you can trust out there to play on or off the ball. You've already got Joe Harris shooting-wise there. You're able to bring back Bruce Brown on a qualifying offer, making him unrestricted next year, but 4.7 for Bruce Brown is not bad. Blake comes back as well. I really, really like those couple of additions, and for them to land someone like Patty Mills that I'm sure a lot of other teams were going after, huge, huge addition for Brooklyn, and I'm very excited. So those are kind of all the points I have for today. It kind of seems like we're slowing down here, and there's not as many deals flying around. We're still waiting on DeRozan. We're still waiting on Schroder. I'm sure we'll find out about that stuff within the next 24 hours or so, but things have gotten, as I said, very weird very quickly here. and I'll continue to break down all the free agency stuff as it happens. But yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, my name is Tucker. Leave a like rating on it if you did enjoy it. Check out more videos from me, the box on screen. Check out socials as well in the description. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.